Motivated by hate, Muslim family run over in Canada. Police say a driver ran over a family in Ontario because they were Muslim, killing 4 people, including a teenage girl. Police in the Canadian province of Ontario says a driver intentionally struck a family because they were Muslim, killing 4 people and seriously injuring a 9-year-old boy in what has been denounced as an act of unspeakable hatred and Islamophobia. The victims, all members of the same family, were hit on Sunday evening while waiting to cross a street in the City of London, about 200 kilometers, 124 miles, southwest of Toronto, Canadian news outlets reported on Monday. Police said the victims were 2 women aged 77 and 44, a 46-year-old man and a 15-year-old girl. A 9-year-old boy was seriously injured and is recovering in hospital. This was an act of mass murder perpetuated against Muslims, London Mayor Ed Holder said. The attack was the worst against Canadian Muslims since a man gunned down 6 members of a Quebec City mosque in 2017. Holder said it was the worst mass murder his city had ever seen. Sunday's attack came amid rising concerns about Islamophobic attacks in provinces across Canada and widespread calls for authorities to tackle racism, hate-motivated violence, and the prevalence of far-right groups. A 20-year-old suspect identified as Nathaniel Veltman was arrested, police said in a statement. There is evidence that this was a planned, premeditated act, motivated by hate, Detective Superintendent Paul Waite of the London Police Department told reporters. Abdullah Al-Shariki and his daughter Hala say a prayer at the scene in London, Canada. Carlos Osorio/Reuters, eyewitness Paige Martin told reporters a black truck blasted past her and ran a red light, and then she came upon the scene and saw chaos. First responders were running to help, a police officer was performing chest compressions on one person, and 3 other people were lying on the ground. Zahid Khan, a family friend, said the 3 generations among the dead were a grandmother, father, mother and teenage daughter. The family had immigrated from Pakistan 14 years ago and were dedicated, decent and generous members of the London Muslim Mosque, he said. They were just out for their walk that they would go out for every day, Khan said through tears near the site of the crash. The family said in a statement the public needs to stand against hate and Islamophobia. This young man who committed this act of terror was influenced by a group that he associated with, and the rest of the community must take a strong stand against this, from the highest levels in our government to every member of the community, it said. London, which has about 400,000 residents, has a large Muslim community and Mayor Holder said Arabic is the 2nd most spoken language after English in the city. I'm horrified by the news from London, Ontario. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said he was horrified by what he described as an act of hatred, and said his thoughts were with the victims' loved ones, including the young boy who survived. To the Muslim community in London and to Muslims across the country, know that we stand with you. This hate is insidious and despicable, and it must stop, Trudeau tweeted. The National Council of Canadian Muslims, a national advocacy group, said it was beyond horrified by the deadly attack. We call on the government to prosecute the attacker to the fullest extent of the law, including considering terrorist charges, the group's CEO, Mustafa Farouk, said in a statement on Monday. This loss of a family, the loss of a child in our community because of Islamophobia, this is a sorrow that will run deep for a long time. Statistics Canada said in March that police reported hate crimes targeting Muslims rose slightly to 181 incidents in 2019, the last year for which the data is available. That spurred calls for authorities to take the threat of far-right violence more seriously and to investigate the attack as being hate-motivated. Justice must be served for the horrific act of hatred that took place in London, Ontario yesterday, he wrote. Breaking. The National Council of Canadian Muslims, NCCM, is beyond horrified and demands justice after the horrific hate-motivated car attack on a Muslim family in London, Ontario who were out for a walk on Sunday evening. Harjit Sajjan, Canada's Minister of National Defence, said he was devastated to learn of the 4 Muslim Canadians killed in London, Ontario in a despicable Islamophobic attack.